Welcome on back to the Sweat, and it is a pleasure, as it always is this time of the week, especially when it's college basketball season and the Final Four ahead of us, to be joined by Osmo's Ben Rasa. Take a look with just a few games remaining, the semifinals, and then, of course, we will have a champion cutting down the nets eventually here. But, Ben, how are you, man?
I'm good. Yeah, it's finally here. We've been waiting to see, and I mean, this is one of, if not the best weekends of college basketball.
This is pretty much your shining moment right now here with us, and I'm here for it. We're going to look at some of the spreads, totals, futures odds, see what is too high or too low, or dare I say we go all Goldilocks, and what is just right for the NCAA Tournament semifinals. So you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right, let's go Baylor and Houston, a 1 seed versus a 2 seed. Now, Baylor, of course, just had been crushing everybody by double figures until it was just a narrow 9-point victory over Arkansas last time out. The spread here has Baylor favored by just 5 points. Is that too high or too low for you?
I'm going to say too low. Baylor's a team, when we step back at the beginning of the year, it was a foregone conclusion. It was going to be Baylor and Gonzaga. Gonzaga kind of did their part. Baylor had some COVID issues, and everyone forgot, I think, how good they are. They're in a groove. They're the best three-point shooting team in the entire country. And it's going to be interesting. This is strength versus strength. Houston relies, we saw what they did to your boys in Syracuse. They can really stop teams from shooting those threes, but I don't think they're going to be able to do that against Baylor. Just too strong in the athleticism, particularly in the backcourt. Baylor has so many guys, whether it's Mitchell, whether it's Butler. I have a feeling that they will speed Houston up, make them play a little more at their tempo. That's going to be trouble. I'll say that Baylor does win pretty comfortably here.
Well, speaking of comfortable wins, how about Gonzaga? I mean, the Bulldogs are just running through everybody trying to complete this undefeated season, and so far so good, pulverizing teams throughout this tournament, not unlike the season. You got UCLA next, who has really just been a wonderful Cinderella story from the first four now to the Final Four, and still, there's no disrespect for the Zags. 14.5-point favorites going into this one, top team in the nation. Should they be getting even more respect, though, than this line? Is this line too low compared to what they've been doing to people?
I mean, it's hard to say that it's too low when it's 14.5 in a Final Four game, but at the same time, I don't know how you go to UCLA in the spot. They've been impressive, and not that this is a team I thought Michigan State would bounce in the first four. Obviously, that didn't happen. I did think against Alabama and Michigan, I wasn't stunned to see them, certainly upsets, but I thought they could hang in those games. The problem here is just what do you do? They're 338th in the country in tempo, but if you try to slow down against Gonzaga, you better hope you get off to a fast start, because if they punch first, it's almost over. And looking at UCLA, the way they're made up, they're a good offensive team. I just don't know how they're going to stop Gonzaga. So ultimately, in a game like this, I do feel like this line is probably just right. Zags by double digits, whether that's 13 or 16 or 18 or 12, who really knows? But it's hard to imagine UCLA can do much to stop them.
I realize Houston has reached this point, so I'm not discounting, obviously, the success that the program has had so far, but still, it has not shot the ball particularly well of late. And you have Baylor on the other side, again, a number 1 seed. You're going to have to shoot the ball better to keep up with this team. The total for this game right here, it's 134.5. Is that too high or too low?
I'm going to say that it's too low. I mean, we've seen a lot of teams, particularly in the first half, really struggle shooting the ball. I don't know if it's nerves or just rhythm or whatnot. But I think here, this is a product of what Baylor's going to do. I expect Baylor to shoot the ball well, even against Houston's defense. And if they do that, Houston kind of has no choice but to at least speed up the tempo. That doesn't mean they're going to make the shots, but the volume should be there. And you look at Baylor's defense, it's a fine unit. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's certainly not overly imposing. So when you look at Grimes and you look at these other players for Houston, they're going to be taking the shots. I think that in turn will lead to enough volume. 134.5-ish. I'm going to go over that. I think Baylor ultimately leads this dance, and it'll push both teams kind of over their totals.
Gonzaga's hit for 80-plus points every single game here in the tournament. I don't know what we're supposed to say about Gonzaga that makes you feel like we can bring them down to a human level. They're just that good this season. It might finally be the Zags' time to shine, but with an over-under of 80.5, their team total, how do you feel about it? Too high or too low?
I mean, it's ridiculous to even entertain that, but you have to with Gonzaga. I think it really comes down to the start of the game. If I was UCLA, we saw against Michigan, UCLA wanted to slow it. And after like 8 minutes in that game, it was like 6-4 or something ridiculous. That's obviously what they want to do here. And I think if they can just keep contact with Gonzaga, ultimately they can hold them to somewhere in the 70s. It doesn't mean they're going to win the game. But if Gonzaga starts fast again, I mean, they're live to hit 90 because UCLA will have to speed up. And once Gonzaga is able to play at their tempo, nobody can stop them. It's absolutely impossible.
Are there any prop bets out there that catch your eye that are too high or too low?
You know, I mean, this is an extension of what we kind of just talked about, but Baylor's team total, it's sitting right at 69 and a half. And I really do think that they'll land in the 70s in this game. As I said, number one 3-point shooting team in the country. And I know Houston does a good job in that area, but they just have so many guys, even with Butler at times struggling. They've just looked absolutely fantastic. So I think this pace is elevated. And just with so many shooters that Baylor has, ultimately, I think they will push the tempo a bit. I'm going to take over their team total as one of my favorite bets this week.
All right. Before we let you go to enjoy your weekend and all the basketball ahead, just need a championship pick from you. Gonzaga is minus 200 on the DK Sportsbook to go and finish this undefeated season, win the whole thing. Is that your expectation?
I mean, I do expect them to win. I will say this. Baylor, when you literally look back at the season, it seemed apparent early on that they were maybe the only team that could beat Gonzaga, and I still believe that. I think that if Baylor plays a top-end game with their shooters and their ability to shoot from three, they can score with them. So I want to see it. I think we're going to see it, and I don't think it's crazy when we get that line. Baylor's certainly going to be underdog to roll with the Bears in the situation and think that Gonzaga once again gets clipped in the championship game.